Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a massive, invisible legal battle over who really owns, controls, and protects your personal online data. It's a conflict happening entirely behind the scenes, right now, and it's defining the very future of our digital lives. Every time you just casually click I agree on one of those endless terms of service pop-ups, you're handing over incredibly sensitive information. Your location, your daily habits, your private communications. But you really have to ask yourself a foundational question. As this data leaves your device, who actually has your best interests at heart?
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the digital trust problem, the information fiduciary model, the shareholder conflict, alternative data trusts, and finally, the data co-op solution. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with part 1, the digital trust problem. We really have to kick things off by acknowledging the staggering power imbalance between us, everyday internet users, and these massive digital platforms. It's basically an environment defined by deep dependency and a huge first-order knowledge gap. Surveys actually show that 74% of Facebook users have no idea the platform collects data to classify their personal interests and traits. You can't protect what you don't even realize is being tracked, right?
So the second you hand over your data, you're stepping into a completely one-sided relationship. These platforms have total control over the digital architecture. They use opaque algorithms, they demand our blind trust, and they subject us to pervasive surveillance. And the kicker? We have absolutely zero negotiating power to change any of the terms.
Which brings us to part 2, the information fiduciary model.
To fix this massive imbalance, Yale law professor Jack Balkin proposed a radical, but honestly pretty intuitive idea. He calls it the information fiduciary model. Basically, he argues that because we are so incredibly vulnerable and reliant on these platforms, they legally owe us special duties of trustworthiness. Just based on the nature of the information they collect and the services they provide, a special bond of trust is formed.
The parallel he draws here is just brilliant. Think about a traditional fiduciary, right? Like a doctor. They have a strict legal duty to protect your health interests, even if you don't understand the complex medical science yourself. Well, under Balkin's model, an information fiduciary, like Google or Facebook, would be bound to protect your data with that exact same legal gravity, simply because you don't have the technical expertise to do it yourself.
Under this framework, Balkin outlines 3 core duties that literally run with the data. First up, the duty of care, which requires them to keep your information completely secure. Second, the duty of confidentiality, meaning they can't just indiscriminately share it around. And third, the absolute most crucial one, the duty of loyalty. This means they actually have to put your best interests first. No using your data to manipulate or harm you. Period.
Now, you might be wondering, when exactly does this duty kick in? Well, the theory states that the very moment a platform holds itself out as a privacy-respecting organization to gain your trust, and you reasonably believe they won't misuse your data, they instantly become an information fiduciary.
But moving on to part 3, the shareholder conflict.
As you can imagine, Balkin's model triggered a massive intellectual debate. Legal scholars Lena Kahn and David Posen pushed back heavily on this in a highly influential paper out of the Columbia Law School archive. They argued that expecting a massive tech platform to act like a loyal doctor completely ignores how these companies actually make their money.
They point out a fundamental flaw. The core business model of these digital platforms demands relentless surveillance. To sell highly targeted ads, they literally have to extract as much data as possible to build a maximally detailed portrait of your life. This creates what's known as a Biblio twin. Think of it as a comprehensive, real-time digital clone of your exact habits, reading behaviors, and preferences. It's constantly being updated. And that right there illustrates the ultimate conflict. Corporate law, especially in places like Delaware, where so many of these companies are incorporated, legally requires directors to prioritize shareholder profit. So, a true fiduciary duty of loyalty to users, which would mean limiting data collection to maximize your privacy, is fundamentally at odds with their existing legal duty to extract data to maximize investor returns. They just can't do both.
So what else is there? Let's look at part 4, alternative data trusts.
If forcing tech giants with mixed loyalties to act as fiduciaries simply won't work, we clearly need entirely new legal solutions built from the ground up. Enter the data trust. This concept takes the conflict of interest completely out of the equation. It's a distinct legal structure where an independent third party holds and manages your data strictly for your benefit. The trustee doesn't have a profit motive to sell ads. Their sole legal mandate is to protect and leverage the data for you.
Let's break down how this actually works in the real world. Instead of handing your data directly to a tech company, you, acting as the settler, grant it to the trust. Then the independent trustee steps in to safeguard it impartially. If a company or a researcher wants to access that data, they have to go through the trustee first, who makes sure everyone is playing by strict pro-user rules.
And finally, part 5, the data co-op solution.
Now, data trusts are incredibly powerful, but sitting at the very top of the ladder of control is something even more democratized: the data co-op. Unlike a trust, which still relies on an independent third party to manage things, a data co-op is actually owned and managed collectively by you and the other members. It completely removes the corporate service provider intermediary from the picture.
Here is the key distinction to keep in mind. In a data trust, you're handing your data over to a third-party expert to manage on your behalf. But in a data co-op, you're not just some passive beneficiary relying on an expert. You are an active, voting owner in a democratic organization. You have a real voice.
Members of a data co-op use what are called personal data management platforms. They get to vote on ethical codes, and they choose exactly what data to share and who gets to see it. And honestly, here's the best part. Instead of a tech giant keeping all the ad revenue, when the collective data pool is ethically licensed to researchers or marketers, the members directly receive the economic surplus themselves.
It's such a compelling idea that legal scholars are even proposing entirely new corporate structures to make it happen, like the D Corp or Data Corporation. In this model, you'd literally receive a single share of stock that legally represents your ownership over your own personal data. It cements your rights and gives you a direct vote in how the whole operation runs.
We've really seen how legal frameworks can, and absolutely must, evolve from passively allowing companies to exploit your data to fundamentally empowering you as a participant. The models are out there, from information fiduciaries to data co-ops, which leaves us with one incredibly vital question as we navigate our digital future. Are you content just being a raw data source, or are you ready to be an owner,